This video is sponsored by Squarespace. Hey guys, Jay here. Welcome to Models Memories Weekly, episode 151. Models Memories is a show about nothing and is filmed in front of a live studio audience. This is a show where I talk about my painting, modeling, and wearing experiences from the week. Now you might be thinking to yourself, Jay, you put out 3 videos a week. Could I possibly have more to say? Well, I do, and here goes. This week, I had a very special game of Warhammer 40,000. I won, Games Workshop showed off some more Kroot goodness, and a very unfortunate fact about a book I was interested in. But first, are you in a desperate need of a website of your very own but you don't know where to start? Well, today's sponsor Squarespace can help with that. Squarespace allows anyone to break into website design with easy-to-use features and professional support from start to finish. No matter what you want your website to look like, Squarespace has got you covered. Choose from one of their dozens of award-winning templates to get started on your website you can truly call your own, with easy-to-use and intuitive tools like their patented Fluid Engine system. And if selling your unique merchandise is your goal, Squarespace is set up to make that a breeze. Whether your products are physical, service-based, or digital, selling your unique merch is easier than ever with Squarespace. It's no trouble at all to get your store up and running. Squarespace offers a free trial for you to dip your feet into and test the waters. And ready to dive in head first, you can go to squarespace.com/EonsOfBattle or follow the link in the description below and get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. First, let's look at the cutest little Kroot Hounds this side of the Mississippi. Oh, the little Kroot Hounds. A little bit of a departure from the old Kroot Hounds. I mean, they're mostly identical, but it's all about the face. The old Kroots had long beaks, and the new Kroot Hounds have like little pug faces. And I like both ways. I like the new heads, I liked the old heads. I didn't own any of the old, did I own any of the old Kroot Hounds? I don't think so. I did have a Kroot carnivore kill team that I ran forever out of the index, and it was absolutely terrible, and I don't think I ever won a game because, man, the index Kroots had absolutely no punch whatsoever. But the Farstalker kin band is actually excellent in kill team, and it has some Kroot Hounds in it. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. These Kroot Hounds are super fun. I really want the little baby Kroot Hound from the new Kroot Carnivores pack. It's the cutest thing I have ever seen. This article teases that these guys are gonna have some pretty crazy movement. And actually, in Tabletop Simulator, I've played against the Tau, and Tau actually kind of already have some pretty crazy movement. Their crisis suits auto-advance 6 inches, like with essentially giving them like an effective 18-inch threat range. It's like Tau aren't actually slow, but these guys being super fast and being able to absolutely zoom into close combat is very interesting. I feel like tying things up, it would be really powerful use of the Kroot Hounds. Like, ooh, if I was going up against like Sean's guard tank list with the Kroot army, I would probably, especially if they're really cheap, I would want a few squads of Kroot Hounds just to throw at the tanks to force them to either fall back or to just overkill the Kroot Hounds. There's definitely some really good utility with the Kroot Hound units. And at the end of the article, it kind of just says they're not very good, but who knows, there might be some sort of a Kroot Hound Wrangler in the works coming soon. So there's gonna be some kind of a character you're gonna be able to attach to Kroot Hounds. What would be really funny, it's probably just gonna be a Kroot guy wearing like a vest. What would be really funny is if it was a Kroot who's like halfway in between transforming from a Kroot into a Hound. That like almost like a werewolf. A werewolf Kroot would be really cool. A really interesting way to do like the hunting pack leader. But maybe that's wishful thinking, or maybe that's exactly what they'll do, because it does sort of fit into the lore of the Kroot. I am totally here for a Kroot sub-faction to Tau. I don't know if... One thing that is a little weird about it is Tau are famously bad in close combat, so they're getting all of these really cool close combat units, which I feel like a little bit turns them into every other army. Although Tau are also just kind of in a bad spot right now because Games Workshop couldn't figure out how to balance them, and so they just decrease the points cost, so you just bring a swarm of Tau as opposed to like a few really good hard-hitting Tau units. So it's interesting. Although presumably they'll have a new codex coming out, so maybe everything will kind of get changed around for the Tau. But speaking of changed around, there's a new book coming out that I'm very excited for. I really love art of books, like these big coffee table books. I'm waiting on the Scorn video game book to get a little bit cheaper or go on sale. I have every single Star Wars making of an art book that's ever been made. I love stuff from like just like artist work stuff like Wayne Barlow or Terrell Whitlatch. Like I love just page after page after page of glorious artwork. And Games Workshop teased me with the Art of the Horus Heresy, the Best Covers Collection, which I don't even understand how it could be Best of Covers Collection, because it's a 320-page book, and there's that's way more pages than there are covers. Although they might have actually commissioned covers for all of the novellas, even though they're combined into like a single novel. So I don't know. It'd be interesting. But it'll be interesting because I'm not going to get to read this thing, because after all of this jaw-dropping artwork they show off in the article, at the very bottom, this hardback book is limited to 6,500 copies. That's probably not much. I would bet that there's 6,500 Heresy players who are going to want this book. That's limited edition. So what does that mean for the price of this thing? How horrible is it gonna be? Are we talking $100? It's probably not gonna be like 40 or 50 like a normal book, like a normal one of these art books. It's why make it limited? I guess because Heresy isn't the most popular thing, but I feel like Warhammer art is pretty darn popular. It's kind of like the video games. Like there's probably more people playing the video games than are playing the tabletop game. And there's that weird website where you can buy art, like 24 art prints of different arts from Games Workshop, and you can get them on posters, and they're way too expensive. If you type in like Games Workshop or Warhammer anything, you'll find a website, because Games Workshop has like 24 different websites to do all of their different games. But yeah, it's really disappointing. If it's expensive or it just sells out instantaneously, I'm not gonna get one. It's just, maybe it's just the Heresy one. It's going to be limited edition and no one's going to be able to get their hands on it. But Games Workshop, G-Dubs, Warhammer, make a 40K book. There's decades of art for 40K. Every single little thing, from the weird little skulls in the corners of the pages to like every single little sketch is fantastic. Just make a giant tome of all of that lore. You know what? Better yet, if you want to milk the fans, make 23 of these books and have one for each faction in 40K that has every single piece of artwork ever made. Like, how that would be so good. Also replace the codexes and just have those for the people who care about their factions, and then just have all of the rules digitally on your app. I really, really want that. I mean, it'd be better if it was just all one book, although it might be physically too big to be a book. If it is actually every single 40K art ever made. But yeah, I want that. I want that really bad. I wanted the 30K thing, but then you made it limited, and it's apparently just the covers. Man, that would be super cool. It'd probably be super limited too. I don't get it. I would love, I'm not a salesman. I don't know much about like distribution and stuff. So maybe it is just the move to make things limited edition like this, but I feel like you just sell more if you had more. I don't really get it. But speaking of things I absolutely do get, I played Warhammer 40,000 this weekend. My Tyranids versus Sean's Imperial Guard spam horrible tank list. Indirect fire, hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s, just basically auto hitting everything. A Bane Hammer tank. I won well. In my very first victory in Warhammer 40,000 10th edition. Oh, it was glorious. I have probably played 25 games of 10th edition, lost every single one of them. Most of them are against Sean. I think one against Nick, couple against someone else, but I've lost every single one of them. And most of it is against this Imperial Guard list because it's so bananas. I don't know if it's like the perfect Imperial Guard list, but it's a spam list. So it's just going to table anything that's like not ready for it, because it's usually, he replaced it with the Bane Hammer, which I think was his first mistake, but the Bane Hammer is super cool. He wanted to play with it. Usually it's 4 Leman Russ Demolishers, the best Leman Russ. Oh my goodness, the Demolisher cannon is madness. 3 normals, 1 tank commander. That's how there's 4 on the list. And then 3 basilisks with Horus Lord in the back, giving them all reroll 1s and stuff. It's absolutely sinister. The indirect fire when he just points at a squad that he can't see, and he's like, that squad I auto hit essentially. And then I auto wound because it's strength 8. It's horrible, but I won. I won because I proxied everything. Usually, my Tyranid army right now is a whole lot of Leviathan, because I bought Leviathan, and that's pretty much all I have for my Tyranid. So it's a pretty swarmy list. I have a lot of Termagants, I have a lot of Gargoyles, lots of Barbgons, Von Ryan Leapers, a lot of small squads of the big bug, of like strength 5 bugs. And that stuff gets wiped by indirect fire blast weapons so hard. So I got rid of all of that. I went through my base collection and I got out all of my 120mm oval bases. I brought 2 Tyrannifexes and 3 Exocrines. That was the foundation of my list. These big tank bugs, and they did not disappoint. Also, I got first turn, which is 40k in first turn. First turn can be pretty brutal, but I got it. If I didn't get it, I don't think I would have lost, but it would have been a lot harder of a fight, because turn 1, I destroyed 1 Leman Russ, and I took some damage off of the Bane Hammer, and I charge blocked the Bane Hammer. I had my Screamer Killer Carnifex, it charged into the Bane Hammer and got it locked in combat. It didn't do much damage, but that meant that the next turn he had with it, he had to either overkill or fall back and not shoot. Really, really good. And kind of the only reason I got to do that is because the Bane Hammer is so big. It's like 11 inches wide that it just takes up all the room in between our terrain, and the other tanks couldn't come and rescue it. And so I got rid of that thing early on, and then it was just a matter of mopping up the rest of the tanks before he could kill everything in my army. And I didn't take any little gribbly bugs. The only thing I took was Ripper Swarm or Gargoyles in Strategic Reserve, so that they could come in and grab an objective late game, which they did, and it was great. The rest of my army was individual squads of Tyrant Guard, because they have toughness 8 and they're actually very hard to shift, surprisingly cheap at 90 points, and kind of the worst thing you can attach to your actual hero bugs. Like they're just bad. They're toughness 8 where he's toughness 9 or 10, I can't quite remember. And so you could overkill the Overlord much easier if you're rolling to wound on the Tyrant Guard, who only have a 3-up save anyway. It's like, you have to make the bodyguard the same as the unit it's bodyguarding, or else it doesn't really work out mathematically. I don't really get it. Also, they're slower. They're just worse. They're just the worst thing you can attach to your... They should let you attach... Well, no, you don't want to attach Tyranid Warriors, because that would be even worse. Fix Tyrant Guard. Games Workshop, fix Tyrant Guard. But they work really well as a solo unit because they're incredibly hard to shift, and your opponent... There's not much to them. They're essentially just a regular Tyranid Warrior squad that you can't kill with a strength, a toughness 8, 3-up save. And so you just march those around the board, and your opponent has to decide, like, do I want to deal with that? It's going to be really hard to shift them. I would rather pick a target that's really doing damage, like the Exocrines or the Tyrannifex. So a couple of those guys running around, obviously, 2 squads of 3 Zoanthropes. If I could, I would bring more. They're very expensive, points-wise and dollar-wise, but man, do they get some work done. It was a beautiful list. And Sean still played very well with his guard. They have the reinforce ability stratagem, so they can just bring things back to life every single turn. Although I had a wonderful turn too, where I killed many units in the same shooting phase, which meant that he could only bring one of the things back to life. The Sentinels, it is wild that an armored Sentinel can come back to life. It is craziness. Sentinels are pretty good. Actually, most Imperial Guard things are pretty good. I think the problem with Imperial Guard is that their army ability gives you reroll 1s if they hold still. You don't want anything to hold still in 40k, and you just don't want anything to hold still in general because it's not fun. You want to be running around and doing stuff. And if you're like, if I run around and do stuff, my guys are objectively worse. I feel like that's a lame mechanic, and they could change it up in a whole bunch of different ways, hopefully focusing on some of the different aspects of the Imperial Guard. But yeah, I've defeated the Imperial Guard. I annihilated them. I went through the entire secondary objective deck. The only one I didn't pull off was hold enemy home field objective, which that one is usually impossible to do. It was absolutely glorious. He conceded at the end of turn 4. I had 46 points, and I think he had 26 points. So it was a It wasn't a stomping, but it kind of felt like I did destroy most of his units, and I still had a decent amount of stuff left. I think I had a Tyrannifex, I had 2 Exocrines, and I had like 2 units of 1 remaining Tyrant Guard and like 1 Zoanthrope still alive. And no, the Gargoyles got wiped out, but they did their job. They did their duty. Gargoyles, I see why they went up in points because they're incredibly obnoxious miniatures. They're enormous. It's a gaunt with giant wings. And so even though they stand on a little 32mm flying stand, they're just so big that they take up a ton of room. It's kind of hilarious. The game went phenomenally. It's kind of hilarious because I've been losing. And so I'm like, I'm the worst at Warhammer 40,000. It is impossible. I got 1 win under my belt. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm pretty good at this game. It's going real good. It's completely turned it around. But it's so much fun. So much fun. And I think since I beat Sean's Imperial Guard list, we have to try again because the Bane Hammer is not optimally efficient. So obviously replace the Bane Hammer with the old 3 Leman Russes, try the list again. I think that will do much better, but I think it'll still be a really good fight because I think we've got 2 lists that are really well matched for each other. And I think that makes for a more fun game than swarms that he can just easily blow away. I won 40K, potentially for the first time ever. I barely remember my games in high school, but it feels good. So much of my time is devoted to Warhammer 40,000 and having actually won the game finally. It makes it so much sweeter. Almost as sweet as the terrain available on our Patreon. Over there, we have new STL terrain sets every single month, and this month we have the Ruined Temple. A set of ancient blocks, ruined walls, and chaotic accessories that allow you to build the ruined temple of your dreams. And if you always want to stay up to date on the goings on here at Eon's Battle and be entered into our monthly giveaways, this month we're giving away a copy of Dominion, and we're picking 3 followers to receive this month's terrain. You can follow the link in the description below to sign up to our newsletter. Now that I've actually won a game of 40K, I am super jazzed to get working on some of my other 40K armies like Death Guard and Drukhari. I'm actually playing a game of Drukhari right now in Tabletop Simulator, trying out my list that'll be done sometime this year. It's a good time. Thanks for watching.